Welcome back to another Cutter Simpsons Unhinged episode. This is number 34 in the list today. So we're going to have some fun. It's a new month, it's a new day, and now I'm going to quickly try to summarize what episodes I've done. And of course, everything will be in the playlist down below. All right. So first of all, I did Lisa Goes Gaga, that commercial for Lady Gaga, if you will. I talked about Homer's thing with Bongo and the fact that he couldn't trust dogs or apes because of the situation. Well, I did the '90s show, which tried to plug up the hole about Bart being born and all that. Homer at the Bat, the episode that beat the Cosby Show first run when The Simpsons were on Thursdays. The Olympic episode in Vancouver, because when I did it, the Olympics were going on and I had to do it. Maud's death, I talked about that one and how it changed a lot of characters, especially Ned. The 15th season's Christmas episode, which I talked about Homer trying to be nice and Ned being jealous and all that. Principal and the Pauper, that episode that jumped the shark. Homer and Apu, I talked about, I needed to do a Apu episode, even though a lot of people didn't like Apu. Lisa becomes a vegetarian. That was the 10th episode. That was the one that saw her make a massive lifestyle change and Paul McCartney coming in. Love is a many strangled thing. I talked about why the Simpsons had to do the narrative of saying that Bart deserved to be strangled. Todd, well, how fast forsaken me. The episode about Todd losing his faith in God because he couldn't remember what Maud looked like, and Ned basically punched him by sending him to the Simpsons. F1, Lisa gets an F1. I thought F1 would be cool and all that, and a good episode with Lisa and how Homer and Marge's parental things kind of switched. The gay marriage episode from season 16, there's something about marrying, about, Homer getting rid of his anti-gay views for the almighty dollar dollar. And then, of course, me being ticked off at the couch gay because of the Stanley Cup and the situation behind it. Diary Queen is about Bart getting Edna's diary and thinks that he's an influence on her, but Lisa has to ruin it by saying that it was all about her cat, but Bart gets cheered up by Flanders. The Family Guy Simpsons crossover in 2014, I talked about. That was the one that saw the Simpsons maybe getting a second win that no one asked for. Bart the Mother, I talked about Bart and Marge's relationship being hampered by eggs and Bart's redemption. I talked about Italy and how one seemingly costly B plot with Lisa trying to learn Italian led to the A plot the next episode with them going to Italy and meeting Sideshow Bob. I talked about Homer's enemy, in which Frank Grimes tries to out Homer's sloth-like appearance, but it seems that Homer gets rewarded while Frank gets bit. And then, of course, the 20th episode was Kill Gil, the one that saw me try to talk about Marge's psychological problems, her psychosis, and the real Jim's, the great Simpsons guy, hasn't done one yet. Where is it? Talked about the Simpsons movie, the plot and how Homer may have done something on purpose. The Hail Mary episode, the Super Bowl episode from 2005, which I watched with glee after the Patriots won the Super Bowl. I wasn't wearing the Patriot shirt for video things. But the fact is that, how, this halftime show, it was basically from raunchy to too bittersweet and saccharine, if I remember right. Trash of the Titans, I talked about the Simpsons, Homer becomes trash commissioner, and then when he ruins the town, they just move 5 miles down the road. Homer doesn't care, and Al Simpson may be moving around because they trash everything. The FIFA episode, the FIFA corruption episode, you don't have to live like a referee, and how basically Homer becomes a World Cup referee who can't be bribed thanks to Lisa's things. Who Shot Mr. Burns? I talked about, obviously, the whole trope with Who Shot Mr. Burns. Trios of Horror from season 2, the first ever one, you never forget your first. I talked about Homer's phobia and, how Bart could be gay and Homer has to juggle his prejudices with trying to love his son. Though Canada, the Canada Day episode, talking about Lisa being Canada and Marge, for some reason, scared of repercussions if Lisa talks badly about America. And then the Bart Mango Banner, the 4th of July episode, which Bart has a temporary sense of hearing loss, and then it ruins them, and basically everyone overreacts to it. I talked about March versus the monorail with a 1-on-3-1 against the Last Essex to Springfield, which is the best season 4 episode, and which is, of course, the best episode of all time. Season 37, I talked about the past, present, and future. The fact that, there was an episode dealing with the past, Bart and Homer's relationship at first, the present with Kurt being bipolar, and the future with hormones. I talked about um, starting over the episode that said it was the 300th episode in Simpsons history, but it's number 302. And Bart, and last week I talked about Barthood, the episode that dealt with Homer and Bart's things and all that, and how Bart usually blames Lisa for everything, but maybe it's because of Homer. But now this week we're going to be talking about a big episode from season 13. We're going to season 13, and we are going to a Christmas episode. I know, boo hoo hoo. It's not Christmas, Cutter. I know that. But we're going to be talking about yet another Lisa's lifestyle changes. She became a vegetarian in season 7, and now season 13, she becomes a Buddhist, and how the town just basically poo-poos her for everything. So let's talk about this episode. Jerkhouse Homer, Marge's worries, Bart's pranks, Lisa's causes, Maggie not talking a lot, Grandpa being senile, Patty and Selma boring Marge, Arnie Sif is a jerk, Chief Wiggum making things happen, Mr. Burns being a dick. You can never stop the Simpsons. Heaven knows they've been trying for years and they still come back for more. 37 seasons is a bit much, don't you think? It's a crazy Simpsons. Something happens. A do 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 do. This is not a clip show. Have no fear. I've got topics for years. All right, so you see the picture. You see Lisa with Laney and Carl spread out, cross-legged, and all that. And is that Richard Gere? That is Richard Gere. So anyway, Lisa is visiting them and all that. And we'll explain that later. Anyway, the episode She a Little Faith from season 13 starts off with Bart and Milhouse watching a rain delay movie, which is a crudely made 1950s space movie. You can tell all the mistakes and all that. And then there's a conversation about a model rocket. So Bart, using Homer's credit card, decides to buy the rocket. Homer is oblivious when Bart gives him the chance to build the rocket. So he, Milhouse, and um, Homer build the rocket. Unfortunately, it blasts off terribly and blows up, and Milhouse's eyebrows somehow magically appear on Bart as sideburns. So they try again, they fail, but then Ned, with the same rocket, manages to get it smoothly. That gets Homer Stander up, and he gets Gary, Benjamin, and Doug, his college roommates, to build a better rocket. So they use Nibbles, the hamster, the famous hamster, to do it. And then Nibbles, sensing troubles, ejects himself. Homer tries to shoot down the rocket, but the rocket lands inside the church. Marge tells Homer, "This is the worst thing you've ever done." However, Homer plays it cool, saying that, "You say that so much it's lost meaning." He's got a point. So anyway, the church now has to figure out how to rebuild and all that. Nobody seems to have the money until Mr. Burns comes in with a devil-sized shadow with the hair up. However, he says that the best thing is commercialization. Sensing no chance for anything, he helps. They accept his money, which is kind of weird because few seasons earlier, Mr. Burns wouldn't donate to the school to keep it open, but he had a change of heart. Anyway, so the church turns into a commercialization, bastardization, if you will, with a big Jesus, with commercial, like advertisings, like putting your head through one of the people at the Last Supper and all that. It seems good. The God Cam, yeah, the advertisements on the pulpit and everything. Lisa then finally snaps once the Noid, the guy who steals the pizzas in Domino's commercials in the 1980s, decides to come up, and Lisa finally decides to say that this church is apt. Apt! However, everyone likes it, saying that it makes him want to go to church and all that, and it's a cushion-sized pews. Lisa refuses to come back to the church and all that. She tries to pray to God, but Lisa is under Marge, excuse me, is under the bed saying, "Why do you have to make a case out of everything?" Well, you should fucking talk, Marge. Sorry, that's how I feel. Anyway, Lisa explains to Marge her reasoning, but Marge says, "I just want one of us to get into heaven." Of course, Bart and Homer probably would never get to heaven. Marge feels like she doesn't deserve heaven. What about Maggie? Like, fuck. Maggie deserves to go to heaven. Nevertheless, Lisa says there should be a better path to him or her. She's just kidding, Mr. Lord. Marge basically is worried about wrath. So basically, Lisa tries to find a religion and finds Lenny, Carl, and Richard Gere at the Buddhist temple, which is, of course, the picture you see if you're watching it. And Richard Gere gives her a pamphlet on Christianity. On Buddhism. So Lisa basically says, fine, and then declares she's a Buddhist through everything. Ned is so upset he puts the boys in a panic room. Yay! She tells the family she's a Buddhist, but the family doesn't like it. And Homer thinks that's something to do with internet chat rooms. Marge says that, Buddhists don't get special lunches. Lisa says something, I can't remember what she says, but she ticks off Marge. The whole thing with Christianity gets through to the bullies who basically tell Bart that Lisa's turned her back on Christianity and basically she should care about it because of a dude with long hair into carpentry and all that. However, it's a guy who's Jimble's mom's dating named Gunther. However, Bart says, wait a minute, I thought Kearney was dating your mom. Whoa, 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 she came on to me. And they basically beat up on Kearney and Bart joins in. Of course, at the next church meeting, they are expecting Mr. Burns to cough up the money to help them out. But Burns reneges on everything and tries to throw a smoke bomb, but fails and gives them the money. So now the church doesn't have to be commercialized. And then they go to the next step. Marge Simpson's devil daughter. She's not a devil. She's just confused. Basically, Ned and everyone try to convince Marge to try to change Lisa back and says that Christmas is the perfect opportunity because you don't put presents under a Bodhi tree. So Homer plans to bring Lisa back to Christianity and Christmas by putting an animatronic angel on top of her Bodhi tree, but it barks bark 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 bark. Jingle bells by dogs. Marge tries to reason with Lisa, and Lisa just basically tunes Marge out, and Marge says, "You're getting a bath tonight." So they try everything, and then they set up a Christmas thing and all that. Lisa says that she's okay. She's okay with it, but says it's not worth it. And then Marge says that, you did actually get a Christmas present despite the fact that you're now a Buddhist because Santa didn't get the memo you're a Buddhist. Lisa says, I'm fine with everything. And is that a pony? It might be. Its name is Clip Clop. I'm actually surprised the pony doesn't really move around as much. And then Maggie presents her with a candy cane, but Lisa sees Reverend Lovejoy out the window and realizes what's happening and runs away. Turns out the horse is two halves. Well, two halves. One half is Ralph, one half is Milhouse. Both helpless lovers of Lisa. Ralph, of course, taking Lisa's simple thing of giving him Valentine's card out of pity and turns it into a relationship, which Lisa basically turns Ralph down at the Krusty special. And Milhouse, well, we all know his history with Lisa. I don't want to repeat it. So anyway, Lisa runs off to the Buddhist temple, and Richard Gere and Lenny and Carl are there. Richard Gere has a tendency to want to kill Lenny and Carl for everything, but definitely not. So he tells them that despite everything, you have to find inner peace and you have to tolerate other religions. So Lisa comes home. Well, Homer thinks that their mission was outside was to get Santa's little helper back. Marge said it was for Lisa. Bart says, I thought we were caroling. Lisa falls asleep in front of the tree and they talk to Lisa. And Lisa says that she feels like she's got inner peace, but she can't hurt her family's feelings. So practically, she's still a Buddhist, but will pay lip service to Christianity and go to church every so often. Homer's okay with it. And then Lisa wants her pony, but Marge basically tries to block her chances of getting a pony and all that. So Lisa was not too pleased. They wanted a lot of things. Now, of course, Richard Gere only said he would be in the show for three reasons. One, if Buddhism was accurately portrayed. Two, that Lisa becomes a Buddhist the rest of her life. And three, she says free Tibet every so often. So practically, it's kind of like Paul McCartney only appearing if Lisa becomes a vegetarian in season 7. And of course, I reviewed the 15th season episode, Tis the 15th season, which Lisa talks about Buddhism to Homer, and then Homer gets the idea to steal Flanders' stuff and all that. So, anyway, there were some subplots and all that that didn't work out and all that. So, anyway, Christmas and all that. So, it actually was close to winning the Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Animated Program, but it lost to a Futurama episode, Roswell That Ends Well, which was pretty good and all that. There were some positive reviews. It was first rate. Gear's performance was bland, but the episode was great. B minus, and everyone, all that. Although 411 Media basically Mania, says that it was one of the worst Lisa episodes of the series. Well, you can't deny that, but things are going. So let's talk about Lisa being a Buddhist and how it has impacted the universe, including her vegetarian angle. All right, so this is a picture of Lisa in Buddhist gear and all that. So the question on everyone's lips is, did Lisa overreact to the whole church thing? Actually, no. Unlike the vegetarian thing, that she kind of overreacted to a baby lamb and pork chops and all of that. And the fact that, Homer was throwing a barbecue, which kind of, as she put it, was putting meat in my face and all that. And she ruins the barbecue and all that. She doesn't really ruin anything. I mean, it does kind of ruin the Simpsons' credibility that basically Reverend Lovejoy thinks that Marge has a devil daughter and all that. And that's wrong. Of course, they're Christianity, and basically Ned as a Bible thumper doesn't help matters either. And of course, we all know about Marge and how people influence her to do the right thing or the wrong thing and all that. That's kind of like Homer with the barflies. So yeah, it wasn't half bad. I mean, to turn Lisa into Buddhist was weird. And of course, a lot of people think that Lisa will turn her back on Buddhism. She has had a few good episodes with Buddhism after she becomes one. As I said in season 15, I did a review, Tis the 15th season, about Homer trying to redeem himself after buying an astrolabe with the Christmas money and trying to compete with Ned for being the nicest man in Springfield. Ned is just jealous of Homer, even though Homer should do it as a basic plot. If it wasn't for Flanders buying people Christmas presents, I think Homer would never have done that. But nevertheless, she tells Lisa about the Buddha and all that. And Homer gets the wrong idea and decides to steal everyone's presents. And Lisa throws snowballs at Homer. She's the one who kind of influenced him. It's kind of like Marge trying to deflect blame and all that. It's like Hank Hill doing that. Nevertheless, there were a few episodes. There was even one episode when Bart got expelled for a prank that he didn't even do. It's Groundskeeper Willie's fault. And he goes to a Catholic school and all that. And he and Homer embrace Catholicism. And, Marge and Lovejoy and Flanders kidnap both of them and all that. And of course, they kidnap Bart, who then basically said that you want me to go to church. And now that I pick a church, you don't like it. Showing how Marge was such a hypocrite. Marge says, I just want you to go to one that makes you happy. Mm-hmm. So anyway, Father Sean from the Catholic Church talks to Homer and talks to Lisa too. And Lisa talks about the Buddha and all that. And then Father Sean insults her by saying that, yes, we all have imaginary friends. Like Buddhism has imaginary friends. And let's not forget the episode when I talked about Todd White has forsaken me from season 31. The episode, that Todd can't remember what Maud's face looks like, and despite gentle reminders and all that, he can't do it. And then he turns his back on God in front of the church, causing Rod to faint and Flanders to throw him out to the Simpsons and all that, just becoming a prick like Ned is. Todd kind of rubs the Simpsons the wrong way by his constantly being there, his cleanliness, like cleaning Bart's room in the middle of the night, and being kind of awkward and all that. And Flanders upset that Todd isn't coming back to the flock. So Homer and Ned get in the accident and all that. And of course, Todd's faith in God is believed when Ned's back to normal. Even Bart prays for Homer's safety, although he tries to deny it. But the subplot, in a sense, was Lisa trying to turn Todd into a Buddhist by saying that you got a lot of reincarnation things. And she imagines David Bowie as a housefly, even though that it's one of her delusions. So it was kind of awkward seeing Lisa trying to convince Todd to be a Buddhist and all that. Near the end of the episode, it all makes sense because Lisa has a awkward dream in which the Buddha, who's now slimmed down and all that, a new version of the Buddha, basically tells Lisa off saying that you couldn't get Todd Flanders to join Buddhism. I mean, he would follow a butterfly, and then I think he wanted to throw Lisa out of being a Buddhist or something like that. And then Lisa says, "No, wait, I got something for you," and gives him Ralph Wiggum. What am I going to do with Ralph Wiggum? And Ralph goes, "Everything is nothing." That pleases the Buddhist. So she's fine. Yeah, that is really off character for Lisa. But, Lisa trying to get people to convert to to Buddhism, what am I thinking? And vegetarianism is just terrible. And a lot of other things that make Lisa's problems be a little annoying, don't you think? So in practicality, Lisa becoming a Buddhist adds on to basically her trying to push things on people, even though she's not supposed to by Buddhist law and all that. I don't know any Buddhists by nature myself, so I don't know what's going on, but the Simpsons teach me some stuff. So that's this episode, and we're going to have a special episode. So there will be a special midweek episode. Monday, August the 3rd is a holiday in Canada. Well, it's a national holiday per se, but every province celebrates it differently. Ontario, it's civic holiday. My store is still open, but I don't have to work Monday. So we will have an episode on Monday, a special weekday episode. And yes, it'll be number 35, and yes, it will be a special one. And yes, it will be a great episode from season 20. In which Homer screws everything up, the finances for like the 10 millionth time, if you will, and how they almost lost their home. Flanders saves the house, but Homer becomes disenchanted with Flanders and basically gets his family kicked out to a homeless shelter and practically, Ned stuff. And yes, about Bart trying to hide his love for the Flanders kids. Oh, come on, Bart. So anyway, we're going to be talking about No Loan Again, Natural Diddly from season 20, and we'll talk about the Simpsons and their financial woes and all that. It'll be a long episode, but it's worth it. Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond.